hello, and thanks for joining us for this Ask Joe Investigate special program. It's a chance to revisit some of our investigative stories, update you on what's changed, and continue to push for answers. And we start with a case of child abuse that came to light when a viewer turned to us frustrated that the system wasn't doing enough to protect children. What we found were filthy conditions and no running water at the home, along with plenty of questions about why the situation had not been addressed sooner.
There was nowhere for the kids to sleep. There's just mounds of garbage everywhere.
Brittany Harrell is a volunteer court-appointed children's advocate in Lyon County. She says earlier this month, a child who lives in this house on Deodar Street in Silver Springs contacted her and revealed the horrific conditions that he and his two siblings live in every day.
There's no running water. They have garbage and dog feces piled up to the windowsills in their house.
And we observed a long line of garbage bags stuffed with trash outside the house. As for the complaint, this is not the first time that someone has reached out for help at this home. We confirmed 44 complaints have been filed with the Division of Child and Family Services based on activity at this address dating back to 2002. But DCFS stated in its most recent report the children who are ages 13, 16, and 17 are not considered of age to be vulnerable. What do you think of that?
Somebody needs to get off their butt and do their job.
So we went to ask what the state has done to respond to those complaints.
Can we talk with somebody about a child welfare case?
DCFS declined to answer our questions, citing confidentiality, but the agency did confirm they are responsible if a complaint is filed involving any child up to 18 years old.
Well, I mean, they're not like perfect.
Outside the home, John, who only provided his first name, identified himself as the father of the children and said he lives in the house with them. He declined to let us inside, but he did confirm that his kids are forced to live without some very basic necessities.
Is there running water in the house? We get the water here and we're getting it fixed.
So there is no running water?
No, there's no running water. But
1 hour after we spoke with John, the bill was paid and water service was restored. It had been off for 5 months. It's a step in the right direction, but some in this community question whether enough is being done to look after children, especially those who ask for help, in some cases, for years.
It's wrong. I think it's wrong. I think that if a kid's crying for help, we need to listen. I don't think kids would make those pictures up.
Well, a lot changed after that story aired. The Lyon County Sheriff's Office launched an investigation and criminal charges were filed against the parents. Both parents were sentenced just last month to a year in jail. Now, they won't have to serve the actual jail time as long as they make the home available for regular inspections. But things definitely changed once we started digging into this story and asking questions. We did get a lot of viewer response to this story. Some of you reached out on Facebook, including Kathy Henderson, who asked, where are the kids in all this mess? Well, to answer that question, the children, who are teenagers, were never removed from the home despite the charges that were filed in the case. The sheriff's office has done welfare checks, and each time they told us that the kids seemed okay. The district attorney agreed and said it's one puzzling aspect of this case. Despite the conditions that you saw inside that home, authorities felt the children were safe, they had friends, and they were doing well in school. Well, we rely on members of the public to bring these issues to our attention, but in this case, Brittany Harrell, who was interviewed as part of our story, was fired from her job with Lyon County Human Services less than 2 months later. Harrell claims that she was retaliated against for speaking out. She has filed a wrongful termination lawsuit against Lyon County, and her case is currently moving forward in the courts. After posting this story on my Facebook page, several of our viewers sharing their support. Sharon Hawley, one of them, saying that I'm so proud of her. I hope she's compensated for this. Brittany, she says, is one great lady. And Deborah Ussery sharing her thoughts, calling it frustrating and saying when it comes to speaking up for the children, Brittany would be damned if she did and damned if she didn't. Well, we appreciate everyone who weighed in on this story. And as we dug into that case in Silver Springs and all the questions that came out of it, well, we stumbled upon something else that seemed to raise even more questions, a complaint filed 20 years ago by a child in that same family. The complaint raised allegations of sexual abuse, but we found it vanished and no one ever investigated it at the time.
That's me. And there's my little sister, Karen.
Crystal Davidson has fond memories of her childhood years growing up first in the small town of Emmett, Idaho, and then in Silver Springs, Nevada. But she's also deeply scarred by something that she says happened to her at a very young age.
Been hard on me my whole life with these memories.
Crystal says she was sexually abused more than once by her father when she was 5 years old. She went to authorities in 2003 when she was 16 and filed a complaint describing an incident years earlier in which she says her dad entered the bathroom and began touching her in her private areas. She says she was so young that at the time she didn't even know it was wrong.
I remember him coming in and started touching me on the backside and kind of like bent me over a little bit and was rubbing me, thinking that, it's my dad. You don't really know any better.
While Crystal says she's lived with that haunting memory, she's also struggled with something else over the years, never knowing the outcome of the investigation.
I filed a report and never heard a word after.
You think your kids are safe in there?
Yeah, they're safe in there.
When Crystal saw her father, John Hesselgesser, was the focus of a News 4 story in May that led to a child neglect investigation because of filthy conditions and no running water at the home where she grew up in Silver Springs, it got her wondering whatever happened with that complaint that she'd filed 2 decades ago. Crystal turned to us for answers.
I want to see what else they can find.
Through a public records request, we were able to help Crystal track down a copy of the report she filed in 2003. That report shows investigators did take her signed written statement, but were stonewalled by her father, who was uncooperative and refused to talk with the deputy in charge of the case. The Lyon County Sheriff said in its report it was forwarding the case to police in Emmett, Idaho, where the family had once lived, and that Emmett PD had agreed to take on the rest of the investigation.
But when Lyon County followed up with Emmett Police last month after we asked for answers for this story, it soon became clear that no one seems to know what happened with Crystal's complaint.
And now it sounds like the PD saying that they never received the report, so a little bit of different information coming in.
21 years later, we've learned that Crystal's complaint somehow fell through the cracks as it was passed from one law enforcement agency to another. Even more surprising, given that records show the State Division of Child and Family Services knew about the complaint as well.
It really hurts to see that the people that are supposed to be helping aren't helping.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
John Hesselgesser is still not talking. He did not respond to multiple messages from News 4 for this story. And Emmett Police insist they have no record of ever receiving this report in 2003. But that doesn't mean the case is closed.
Obviously, the report is 21 years old.
Lyon County Sheriff Brad Pope, who was sworn in last year, says the passage of time is an added challenge in any criminal investigation, but he pledged to help in the effort to find answers now about what happened back then in this case.
No, we're willing to assist the victim. We're willing to assist any law enforcement agency that wants to pick up this case. If the suspect's found to have committed a crime, justice needs to be served.
And that's Deodor's.
As for Crystal, all she wants is reassurance that her complaint was taken seriously. If not in 2003, then perhaps in 2024.
I think it would give me some closure, help with these memories, and help with being able to fully heal myself from what has happened.
Well, after our story at the end of last year, the police chief and the mayor of Emmett, Idaho agreed to reopen Crystal's complaint and vowed to treat it like a brand new investigation. So the ball is in Crystal's court now. She says the memories are painful, but she's working to coordinate with the mayor and police chief to arrange a formal interview. Now, will anything come of it? It's really hard to say, but at least those in charge say they are willing to listen and investigate now that we have pieced together what went wrong the first time around. We're often reminded to be careful about what we put in storm drains because whatever gets dumped there goes straight to the Truckee River. Well, state environmental officials are now investigating a major construction mix-up that pumped raw sewage right into the Truckee River for an entire year. And those in charge, the state's environmental regulators, did not know about it until we told them.
Lifelong Sparks resident Scott Trabert says at one point last year, the smell in this C Street neighborhood was so bad he avoided spending time in his backyard.
Foul sewer smell.
Trabert says he did his best to get answers about what was causing it.
Sent emails and called the city, and then finally had to go down to City Hall.
We asked the city of Sparks, and they confirmed for the first time publicly that the source of the smell was a new apartment complex next door to Trabert's home and a sewer pipe that clearly ended up in the wrong place. Here's what happened. The city says construction crews working on the Atrium project accidentally connected the building's sewer line, which is supposed to feed into the sewer treatment plant, to a different pipe which connects to the city's storm drain. Well, that storm drain leads straight to the Truckee River. Adding to the problem, city inspectors missed the mistake when they checked the building in 2022. City officials tell us they chalked the mistake up to a simple case of human error, but no one from the city of Sparks was willing to speak on camera for this story. A construction crew provided this video to city officials in October of 2023, verifying that the repairs had been made. But we've now learned that no one ever reported the problem to state environmental officials, which is required by law. City officials tell us it wasn't their job to report what had happened to the state. They left it up to the builder to do that. But the builder, Silverwing Development, never reported it either, according to NDEP.
Your call cannot be completed as dialed.
Silverwing is now out of business, according to records we found. Because of that, the Nevada Department of Environmental Protection knew nothing about raw sewage spilling into the river from the city's storm drain for a year or longer. That is until we told them. Jennifer Carr is the top boss at NDEP.
We were unaware of it up until you started asking us questions about it. And so we very much appreciate Channel 4 coming and bringing it to our attention.
But somebody should have told you long before we did, it seems like to me.
Yes.
NDEP has now launched its own investigation to get a better idea about the full scope of any environmental impacts. Carr says that fines could run as high as $25,000 a day depending on what they uncover, meaning a simple mistake that caused a big stink could also come with a big price tag for the city of Sparks. Scott Trabert, meantime, says being able to enjoy his backyard again is a breath of fresh air. And he's just hopeful the problem's been fixed once and for all.
I just hate for that to be happening running into our beautiful river.
NDEP continues to investigate this case, so it is still not resolved yet. The city of Sparks, meantime, says it has adopted a new policy because of this story. They say from now on they will report any environmental problems to the state directly and not rely on a builder or a contractor to do that.
It was a heinous crime. It was cold-blooded killer.
A grieving mother is still waiting for answers 2 years after her son was murdered in a bloody scene in his Battle Mountain home.
You have helped so many people, and I knew that you could help me.
And a woman frustrated that her car was towed illegally by her HOA turned to us for help. Well, things changed in a hurry once she did that. And throughout the Ask Joe special, we're sharing this with you, our QR code to help you better connect with us. It's very simple. Just take out your phone, go to your camera, and click. And from there, you'll see this. It's a direct link to my email, my Facebook, and the Ask Joe webpage and our YouTube page as well. An easy way for you to share your thoughts, concerns, or questions directly anytime. Welcome back, everyone. We all know Sparks is the rail city, of course, but one of the last links to its railroad heritage is about to disappear. As we were first to report, Union Pacific revealed its plans to demolish the old machine shop on Nugget Avenue. That was months ago. Well, the city has now issued a demolition permit. But when this building goes, a whole lot of history will go with it.
This is the machine shops where they did a lot of repairs.
As executive director of the Sparks Museum, Christine Johnson fears an important piece of local history is about to be lost. This massive and majestic brick building is now in the way of progress for the railroad, which wants to tear it down to create more space to park trucks on this property next to Interstate 80.
It's the premier structure for the railroad industry and the last vestige of all of those buildings that existed.
This building is where people like Ray Johnson did the dirty work, repairing and maintaining locomotives, the backbone of the country's supply line back then.
So many people come to our museum and to this building and say, we have grandpa that worked here, or our dad worked here.
These days, the clanging of machinery has given way to a different sound. The once bustling railroad shop is now home to a few budding artists, like musician Johnny Rolling, who just put the finishing touches on his first album. He says this space provides the freedom that he needs to write, play, and sing.
It's cool to have somewhere where you can be loud and express yourself and be free in a lot of ways. I think it's very important.
Along with artist space, this building is also used for storage on a massive scale, even boats and campers lined up here behind me. But those who are fighting to save this building say there is really no limit to its potential.
Efforts to find new uses for the building go back some 20 years, with ambitious plans drawn up by local and federal officials that for some reason just never materialized.
It could have been an exploratorium. It could have been a tourist center for the city of Sparks. There was thought that it could have been the Amtrak station at one point.
Now the clock is ticking on an aging building that represents an important link to the city's past, but also seems to be standing in the way of the modern railroad's future.
Can this building be saved?
I think so.
Sparks City Councilman Donald Abbott is not ready to give up. Abbott recently met with Union Pacific and describes his meeting as positive. The Sparks native and second-term council member says this building is too important not to fight for.
Sparks High School, where I graduated, we are the Sparks High School Railroaders because of the railroad. Our whole city of Sparks is based around the railroad.
Well, sadly, that fight is basically over as the city of Sparks has issued that demolition permit. We took to social media to hear what some of you had to say, and viewer Chris Frieda Newmeyer Sr. said, quote, another piece of Sparks that we will lose. Also, viewer Brett Fellman shared his disappointment, saying that it's a real shame they're destroying our history just so they can have another parking lot. And Brett's right. The plan is to use that space for more truck parking for the railroad. So our question was, what is Sparks doing to safeguard its history? Well, we found efforts are underway to focus more attention on historic preservation. Councilman Donald Abbott has created a website along with some others. It's called sparkshistorymap.com. You can see it here. You can read about historic buildings, see where they're located, and also even upload your own photos if you like to the website. Abbott says it's one step that he and others can take to educate people about the rail city's past. Well, imagine driving down the road, another driver slams into your car and then takes off. A Carson City man says that's what happened to him. It turns out the other car belonged to Tesla, and all indications are the Nevada Highway Patrol hit nothing but roadblocks with its investigation. Michael McKenzie showed us the damage to his SUV, including his tailgate and doors that no longer work properly. NHP quietly closed its investigation and then reopened it once we started asking questions. Tesla admitted in the NHP report that the car belonged to them and was parked on their property. Despite that, NHP closed the case for good in October and refused to answer any questions about the case after that, only saying in their report they couldn't prove who it was that hit McKenzie on the freeway that day. A lot of response to this story. Lori wrote in saying, I don't get how Tesla, can get away with ignoring or not responding to any legal authority in the state of Nevada. Others were pretty blunt. Tammy saying, quote, that's some serious BS. And our viewer Michael Boyd shared his thoughts by saying, seems like someone is trying to cover up. All indications are that Tesla simply ignored the subpoena in this case, and that was the end of the investigation. Surprising, but that is how it played out. Again, a frustrating case for our viewer Michael McKenzie. Again, all I can tell you, the Nevada Highway Patrol refused to answer our questions after this investigation. In fact, I just asked them last week if Tesla ever responded to that subpoena they issued. NHP declined to answer that question, so I think you can draw your own conclusions from that. A criminal case we've been following for years is finally headed to trial next month. Paul Eichelberger is charged in the shooting death of Sierra Ciccarelli in 2016. Since then, Eichelberger has been arrested, then released, and the case was transferred out of Washoe County because of a conflict. Things went quiet for years until Eichelberger was arrested again in 2022. The judge has vowed no more delays. The trial is set to begin March 31st. Unimaginable pain, that's what one woman says she is going through after her son was shot and stabbed to death in his Battle Mountain home. That was more than 2 years ago. Laren Durfee was murdered in August of 2022. His mother, Mary Nell Tapp, lives in Arkansas. She turned to us because she simply can't get any answers, she says, from those in charge. We did learn the case was handed over to the district attorney this past summer, and that's where it still stands. Durfee's mother says she can't even sleep at night knowing that her son's killer is still out there somewhere.
I don't think I've probably slept more than 3 or 4 nights solid since this happened. He's still my baby, no matter how old.
Our thoughts go out to Mary Nell. We have reached out to the Lander County District Attorney multiple times. They will only tell us the case is under review. That's it. So we hope to have some more answers soon. Well, a Sparks woman is picking up the pieces after a nightmare she will certainly never forget. A gunman who had already shot 3 police officers broke into Verla Jackson's home on Greenbrae Drive looking for a place to hide. The pursuit of that suspect would end in a hail of gunfire in Jackson's garage and leave her home destroyed.
This is my sewing room.
More than a month after Verla Jackson's home was lit up by flashbangs and gunfire, the smell of tear gas still lingers in parts of the house.
So in here is probably the worst smelling room of the 3.
The evidence of what happened here is all around. Punctured ceilings, shattered windows, and a wall peppered with bullet holes.
Police department!
An afternoon of crime, chaos, and sheer coincidence was enough to turn Jackson's whole world upside down.
It was just very surreal, you know, that this actually happens, and I've never been in a crime scene like this before, so it was quite interesting.
Jackson is lucky to be here talking about it. After all, a gunman who had opened fire on police just blocks away ended up choosing her house as a hiding place. Jackson says the suspect hopped over this back fence while she was inside watching TV. He then made his way to her back door, where he broke these glass panels and was able to reach inside and unlock the door handle. And then he was inside the house.
He kicked out the bottom glass in my screen door, and then he broke through here.
He just broke in my house and barricaded my bedroom.
Jackson locked herself in the bathroom, utilizing lessons she'd learned through some recent active shooter training at work. She eventually escaped by running out the front door. And then, more than 8 hours after the first shots were fired at police, this whole ordeal came to an end in Jackson's garage. Police made sure of that.
This is where it all ended. It was in here.
Now, as Jackson processes her emotions, anger, surprisingly, is not one of them.
It's very sad, actually, for me, because this young man made a choice that impacted a lot of people.
Well, Jackson's home basically had to be torn down to the studs and rebuilt. As you can see here in this picture, the work is coming along, but it's a slow process, and you can see that work happening. Jackson says she's hoping to move back in soon, and we certainly hope that is the case. At this point, she's still waiting for it to be finished up. But there was concern and support for Verla on our social media. One of our viewers, Steve Jones, saying great news for her. It looks ready for sheetrock, and it won't be long for her now. Thanks to the update, Joe, he says. Hopefully Verla is able to move back in soon. We will keep you posted on that. Nothing more frustrating than walking out to your car only to find out it's not there. Even worse in this case, it had been towed illegally. Well, that's when we got involved. We'll tell you how this story ended up when we return. And throughout this Ask Joe special, we're sharing with you this QR code to help you better connect with me. It's real simple. Take out your phone, go to your camera, and then just click. From there, you'll see this. It's a direct link to my email, my Facebook page, and the Ask Joe webpage, and our YouTube page as well. It's a very easy way to share your thoughts, your concerns, or questions directly with me, so look forward to hearing from you. All right, let's wrap up our program on a very positive note. A Reno woman who had just about given up hope of getting her car back after it was towed. Even though it was in a legal spot, it was still towed away. Well, she was faced with a big bill that she couldn't pay, and it turned out she didn't need to pay it. Jamie Cleary's car was towed in December from her apartment at the Lakeside Plaza condominiums. The state got involved and found the car never should have been towed in the first place. And just when Jamie was about to give up hope, though, the tow company returned her car and dropped all of these charges.
No answers. Nobody would talk to me. Everybody was rude and they wouldn't answer me, but you got all of the answers that I needed. And my car was delivered to me today.
So happy we could help, and the fact that Jamie got her car back the week before Christmas made this story even better. On that note, I want to thank you for tuning in tonight for our Ask Joe Investigate special report. We will continue to do our best to address any questions you have, so feel free to reach out. It's one way that we serve you, our viewers, by digging in and getting the answers and information you are looking for. So keep those questions coming, and we'll see you next time.